and of those who walked their partners backwards down the room with faces of ineffable supremacy. Being unskilled in these intricacies of an elder civilisation, the younger Miss Bennet fared but ingloriously at my hands. The music pounded interminably on, until the heel of Mr. Flood put a period to our sufferings. "The nasty, dirty, filthy brute!" shrieked the younger Miss Bennet in a single breath. "He's torn the gown off my back." She whirled me to the cloak room. We parted, mutually unregretted, at its door, and by, I fear, common consent, evaded our second dance together. Many, many times during the evening I asked myself why I did not go to bed. Perhaps it was the remembrance that my bed was situated some 10 feet above the piano in a direct line. But whatever the reason, the night wore on, and found me still working my way down my shirt cuff. I sat out as much as possible, and found my partners to be, as a body, pretty talkative and ill dressed, and during the evening I had many and varied opportunities of observing the rapid progress of Mr. Knox's flirtation with Miss Bobby Bennet. From number 4 to number 8 they were invisible. That they were behind a screen in the commercial room might be inferred from Mr. Flood's thundercloud presence in the passage outside. At number 9 the young lady emerged for one of her dances with me. It was a barn dance, and particularly trying to my momently stiffening muscles; but Miss Bobby, whether in dancing or sitting out, went in for "the rigour of the game." She was in as hard condition as one of her uncle's hounds, and for a full 15 minutes I capered and swooped beside her, larding the lean earth as I went, and replying but spasmodically to her even flow of conversation. "That'll take the stiffness out of you," she exclaimed, as the organist slowed down reverentially to a conclusion. "I had a bet with Flurry Knox over that dance. He said you weren't up to my weight at the pace." I led her forth to the refreshment table, and was watching with awe her fearless consumption of claret cup that I would not have touched for a sovereign, when Flurry, with a partner on his arm, strolled past us. "Well, you've won the gloves, Miss Bobby," he said. "Don't you wish you may get them?" "Gloves without the G, Mr. Knox," replied Miss Bennet, in a voice loud enough to catch the end of the passage, where Mr. Thomas Flood was burying his nose in a very brown whisky and soda. "Your hair's coming down," retorted Flurry. "Ask Major Yates if he can spare you a few hairpins." Swifter than lightning, Miss Bennet hurled a macaroon at her retreating foe, missed him, and subsided laughing on to a sofa. I mopped my brow and took my seat beside her, wondering how much longer I could live up to the social exigencies of Drumcurran. Miss Bennet, however, proved excellent company. She told me artfully and inch by inch all that Mr. Flood had said to her on the subject of my hairdressing. She admitted that she had, as a punishment, cut him out of 3 dances and given them to Flurry Knox. When I remarked that in fairness they should have been given to me, she darted a very attractive glance at me, and pertinently observed that I had not asked for them. As steals the dawn into a fevered room, and says, "Be of good cheer, the day is born," so did the rumour of supper pass among the chaperons, male and female. It was obviously due to a sense of the fitness of things that Mrs. Bennet was apportioned to me, and I found myself in the gratifying position of heading with her the procession to supper. My impressions of Mrs. Bennet are few but salient. She wore an apple green satin dress, and filled it tightly. Wisely mistrusting the hotel supper, she had imported sandwiches and cake in a pocket handkerchief; and, warmed by 2 glasses of sherry, she made me the recipient of the remarkable confidence that she had but 2 back teeth in her head, but, thank God, they met. When, with the other starving men, I fell upon the remains of the feast, I regretted that I had declined her offer of a sandwich. Of the remainder of the evening I am unable to give a detailed account. Let it not for one instant be imagined that I had looked upon the wine of the Royal Hotel when it was red, or indeed any other colour. As a matter of fact, I had espied an inconspicuous corner in the entrance hall, and there I first smoked a cigarette, and subsequently sank into uneasy sleep. Through my dreams I was aware of the measured pounding of the piano, of the clatter of glasses at the bar, of wheels in the street, and then, more clearly, of Flurry's voice assuring Miss Bennet that if she'd only wait for another dance he'd get the R.M. out of bed to do her hair for her. And then again oblivion. At some later period I was dropping down a chasm on the Quaker's back and landing with a shock. I was twisting his mane into a chignon when he turned round his head and caught my arm in his teeth. I awoke with the dew of terror on my forehead, to find Miss Bennet leaning over me in a scarlet cloak with a hood over her head, and shaking me by my coat sleeves. "Major Yates," she began at once in a hurried whisper, "I want you to find Flurry Knox and tell him there's a plan to feed his hounds at 6 o'clock in the morning, so as to spoil their hunting." "How do you know?" I asked, jumping up. "My little brother told me. He came in with us tonight to see the dance, and he was hanging around in the stables, and he heard one of the men telling another there that there was a dead mule in an outhouse in Bride's Alley, all cut up ready to give to Mr. Knox's hounds." "But why shouldn't they get it?" I asked in sleepy stupidity. "Is it to fill them up with an old mule just before they're going out hunting?" flashed Miss Bennet. "Hurry and tell Mr. Knox. Don't let Tomsy Flood see you telling him, or anyone else." "Oh, then it's Mr. Flood's game," I said, grasping the situation at length. "It is," said Miss Bennet, suddenly turning scarlet. "He's a disgrace. I'm ashamed of him. I'm done with him." I resisted a strong disposition to shake Miss Bennet by the hand. "I can't wait," she continued. "I made my mother drive back a mile. She doesn't know a thing about it. I said I'd left my purse in the cloakroom. Good night. Don't tell a soul but Flurry." She was off, and upon my incapable shoulders rested the responsibility of the enterprise. It was just past 4 o'clock, and the last bars of the last waltz were being played. At the bar a knot of men, with Flurry in their midst, were tossing "odd man out" for a bottle of champagne. Flurry was not in the least drunk, a circumstance worthy of remark in his present company, and I got him out into the hall and unfolded my tidings. The light of battle lit in his eye as he listened. "I knew Tomsy was shaping for mischief," he said coolly. "He's taken as much liquor as'll stiffen a tinker, and he's only half drunk this minute. Hold on till I get Jerome Hickey and Charlie Knox. They're sober. I'll be back in a minute." I was not present at the council of war thus hurriedly convened. I was merely informed, when they returned, that we were all to hurry on. My best evening pumps have never recovered from the subsequent proceedings. They, with my swelled and aching feet inside them, were raced down one filthy lane after another, until somewhere on the outskirts of Drumcurran Flurry pushed open the gate of a yard and went in. It was nearly 5 o'clock on that raw December morning. Low down in the sky a hazy moon shed a diffused light. All the surrounding houses were still and dark. At our footsteps an angry bark or two came from inside the stable. "Whisht!" said Flurry. "I'll say a word to them before I open the door." At his voice a chorus of hysterical welcome arose. Without more delay he flung open the stable door, and instantly we were all knee deep in a rush of hounds. There was not a moment lost. Flurry started at a quick run out of the yard, with the whole pack pattering at his heels. Charlie Knox vanished. Dr. Hickey and I followed the hounds, splashing into puddles and hobbling over patches of broken stones, till we left the town behind and hedges arose on either hand. "Here's the house," said Flurry, stopping short at a low entrance gate. "Many's the time I've been here when his father had it. It'll be a queer thing if I can't find a window I can manage, and the old cook he has is as deaf as the dead." He and Dr. Hickey went in at the gate with the hounds. I hesitated ignobly in the mud. "This isn't an R.M.'s job," said Flurry in a whisper, closing the gate in my face. "You'd better keep clear of housebreaking." I accepted his advice, but I may admit that before I turned for home a sash was gently raised, a light had sprung up in one of the lower windows, and I heard Flurry's voice saying "Over, over, over" to his hounds. There seemed to me to be no interval at all between these events and the moment when I woke in bright sunlight to find Dr. Hickey standing by my bedside in a red coat, with a tall glass in his hand. "It's 9 o'clock," he said. "I'm just after waking Flurry Knox. There wasn't one stirring in the hotel till I went down and pulled the boots from under the kitchen table. It's well for us the meet's in the town. And by the by, your grey horse has 4 legs on him, the size of bolsters, this morning. He won't be fit to go out, I'm afraid. Drink this anyway. You're in the want of it." Dr. Hickey's eyelids were rather pink, but his hand was as steady as a rock. The whisky and soda was singularly untempting. "What happened last night?" I asked eagerly as I gulped it.